Welcome, you say the of the Good Morning Naija show this beautiful morning. I would already tell you, say, we're going to discuss things that will concern housing, planning, and all those other things that we will know they to put focus. But time don't reach where we're going to put focus on those kind of things because we don't see so many things they happen. Inside this Obodo Lagos, where we day, you go here, say, how's the crash here, this the crash here. But there are people that are planners. We know where this thing supposed to be, how this thing supposed to be. So we get an expert inside the house today. He na development project consultant, investment facilitator, and they do international procurement too, on top many, all those kinds of things. Them. Please help us to welcome architect Austin Ilere Emuan. Emuan. You're very welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, so let's just go straight to the point now, because we see a lot of flooding issues that happen, not just in Nigeria, but every part of the country, of the world anyway. In Nigeria, we see the one where happen for inside Lekki, we see the one where they happen for inside Benue State, we see the one where it happens for inside Lokoja. Would you blame the amount of casualties on our bad town planning?
Yes, basically and specifically. And not only just because of bad planning, but because of the choices that we have made and that we are continuously making. The forces of creation in their infinite wisdom, when the world was created, there are a lot of safety valves that they have put in place. But some of those things have been completely compromised. You know, what you call delicate balances, you know, that have been put in place in the cosmos generally. Because most of those balances have been compromised, basically due to the activities of man on Earth, what we now have is what they call quantum shift in the global brain. And that has set in a distorted equilibrium in the whole system. So because of that, you know, choices may be free, but the consequences are not. Actions and reactions are equal but opposite. When you carry out certain actions, it causes a negative effect. So most of the negative effect is what we are having today.
When I'm looking at, when you're giving us all these very technical terms, where we know, say, and as something we're supposed to be, now waiting to go school, go learn. When they talk about developed country, if you understand all this, your English. But in Nigeria, where we don't even get better planning, what do we do? Because our towns are already set. I know, say, a lot of you planners go talk, say, there are some things that you need to do from the inception. That means, say, from beginning. How many places we won't break for inside Lagos? And we're still taking the ocean away. We are encroaching on the ocean where sand filling. That means, say, we they push and go back. And just like you tell us, see, everything gets, reaction go get an opposite reaction. What will be the fate of the world in the next couple of years, especially us in Nigeria?
Everybody get a role to play. We all have our own roles to play. If you, as bad as most of the planning that we complain about, as bad as they are, if only all of us can abide by certain regulations, we will not be where we are today. Nigerians generally are very stubborn. When you are faced with a situation, either you know somebody who knows a minister, you know. So we want to always find one way or the other to compromise. Like a lot of estates that have been planned, you know, you are told you are not supposed to build beyond this point. You are not even supposed to have structures on drains. But we flaunt all these, we compromise all these regulations. So what do you have? At the end of the day, the impact is what we are all facing at the moment. So the only thing that needs to be done is that the government has to have a very strong political will to deal with certain situations. It's like what happened in Abuja. Many structures were pulled down. And we need to begin to react like that to the problem. Otherwise, we're just going to find ourselves in a very chaotic situation. So the problem is twofold. We on our own, we have to be ready to abide by simple rules and regulations. And the government also has to have a strong political will. And above all, we need to engage the right professionals at all times.
Go in there. I know you want to pick that one up.
You know, before we even talk about the government, now we know, say, we have different, like you don't realize, there's some people they cut corners to get certain things done, and that one they affect not just town, the regional and town plan, they affect every other thing. But what will be the major, if you as a town planner now, what will be the major An architect, I apologize. Yes. What's going to be the major challenge where you feel, say, they affect town planning? Now, besides maybe cutting corners of people, what will be the major challenges where you feel, say, town planners and even possibly architects, because I know they work hand in hand anyway. The challenge is one that they get as regards, regional and town planning, basically.
Well, okay, basically, all the professionals in the built environment,
Yes.
let me put it that way, from planners, architects, engineers, and what have you. One of the basic problems that we have is people don't really patronize, even the government and corporate bodies. They don't patronize professionals. Even when they do, they are not given free hand to do what they have to do. So that is a basic challenge. And of course, you know now that there are always half-baked professionals. And there are two ways to be qualified in any profession. You have to, first of all, be academically qualified, and secondly, you have to be professionally qualified. So anything outside of these two that makes you a professional, you are a quack or a semi-quack. You understand? So if the right professionals are employed to execute projects and they are given free hand to do what they know best how to do, we will have less problems. As a matter of fact, most of these problems will be eliminated. That doesn't mean that there are no other issues. There are a whole lot of other issues. The procurement process, who do you give the contract to? Sometimes jobs are given to people who know nothing about construction. Everybody wants to build, just like everybody wants to do oil business. So these are some of the problems.
How we go fit get out of this particular quagmire? Because it be like everybody they sink inside the same sand. We had architects on this couch. We've had a lot of people that are planners, technicians, architects, and many of them will say that they have a group, an association that pushes forward their agenda. Is it that your voice, they're loud enough? Because if we're dealing with technical people, you should be able to get a certain level of influence on top of the government. Because we found out that even in simple building, a lot of buildings do not even get the right, what does it?
Even the right materials.
Not even materials, they don't get the right permit.
Okay, for them to even
do their work, which is supposed to be gotten by. We've interacted with a couple of architects. We know that when you have drawings, there are some people you submit the drawings to assess it.
The regulatory bodies.
Are you saying that your voice is not strong enough?
We are doing the best we can, and unfortunately, it's a general problem. There are all the structures that we have, the institutions that we have are generally very weak, and there's no political will to push some of these things home. And the custodians of some of these regulations who are supposed to implement them, the civil servants, they also have their, what that is. I mean, I submit drawings for approvals, and maybe 6 months down the line, my approval is still there. I have not gotten my approval.
You haven't facilitated the Nigerian way.
Here is the client. The client has the money he wants to use for this particular project. Money will not just sit back and begin to wait for you. Sometimes people wait, and they can't wait any further, and they just go ahead and they start building. But that does not mean also. Sometimes I actually really wonder. There are some projects that are really very bad, done by quacks, and before you know it, the construction is going on. People just look the other way. Even when most of these civil servants or those who are supposed to be custodians of our regulations come, do they really come with the intention of coming to uphold the law? Just like the policeman stops you, he wants to harass you so that he can get something from you.
Oh, really?
Yes. All right, so let's talk about a very important issue where I know Lagosians and even those around the country, the states, they actually go through demolition of houses. Now, you don't actually build your house, don't stay there for like years, and just all of a sudden, government will come tell you, say, come, you actually build your house on the wrong soil.
Yes.
So, in that case, who has the right to do that? Does the government really have the right to demolish the houses?
It depends on the first step that was taken before that structure or building was put in place. When you want to build, where you are contemplating building a house, the first thing to do is to ask the architect, go to the architect, and what the architect will also do as first principle, he will look at your survey plan and go to the planning authorities and carry out ask for what we call planning information. That planning information will enable him know whether the parcel of land is actually in a zone where you can build a residential building, or if you are contemplating putting up a factory, because there is a master plan. There's a master plan that must be followed. And people don't go through all that. They just go ahead, maybe they discuss with a quack, and then they build a structure. You may not, the fact that a mistake has been made from day one does not mean that the mistake, or let me say an error, will be allowed to be transformed into a mistake, and the government is going to sit back looking at you when the time comes. You know, so most people have had their fingers burnt and their structures are pulled. Sometimes the government even try to accommodate and say, okay, let's see what we can do. Some of the structures that are very bad, they will be pulled down, and those that are obviously compromising public interest, they pull it down.
I just say something. We also have quack architects out there. It's possible, say, people don't go actually get advice from an architect, and they tell them, oh, this is a not be government land. No worry, if you actually build there, no worry, nothing will happen to you. But and then 5 years down the line, government will come say, come, this is actually my land.
Yes.
So in that case, what will be the right process where person need to go through in terms of building your own apartment?
Yes, okay, like the process of building delivery is very straightforward. For a building to be delivered, you have two major teams. You have the design team and you have the construction team. Like I said, approaching the design team, the first point of call is the architect, because the architect is the one that you are going to tell all your whatever you want in the project. You will be able to articulate your dreams and your aspirations and give you a design. Okay, and because he's properly trained to ensure that all necessary requirements of comfort are put in the building, he comes up with a plan and advises you on how to go about it from beginning of the project to the end. But Nigerians generally will like shortcuts. We like quick fixes, you know. And we also like things that are very cheap.
Cheap. I wanted to go there because
yes, it's like taking the shortcut, which is most times is actually the longest route. So if people can learn, just like when you are ill, the best person for you to go and see is the medical doctor. People should learn to also ask questions and go to the professionals. Yes, we may have been seen to be laid back, that we are not pushing hard enough. We're doing the best we can. I mean, that's why we also thank your organization for allowing people like us to come here and talk to the public, so that people don't just go out to make mistakes. Because when you make a mistake, they say ignorance is no excuse.
Yes.
So that is how it is.
Is there an association of professional architects?
Oh yes, yes, there is.
But this syndrome that a lot of Nigerians seems to like to follow, this people that build, I found out that they like to use artisans to even plan their building.
No, that is.
I've seen uneducated, unschooled, but experienced builders actually construct buildings for people. Where is the divide in that one? Because I wouldn't say that they are not good, because I know that some of these things are technical experience, experience of the job, unlike some of our young baby architects that are just starting out and just plan on paper. Where do you get the fine line? How do you get...
Just like I've explained, you know, in the building team, everyone has a role. Like even in the design team, you have the architect, you have the structural engineer, you have the mechanical engineer, you have the electrical engineer, you have the quantity surveyor, and the likes like that. In big projects, you even bring in building economics. So depending on the scale of the project, and you can even bring in a project manager. When it comes to the construction phase of the project, a lot of workers are going to come in. Apart from the fact that the building design team will still be there to monitor the process, the construction team, you're going to have a lot of artisans that will come there and work. You have the electrician, you have the carpenter, and the mason, and all of that. The problem we are having also is everybody should play his own role. It's a division of labor. So a situation whereby the man that is supposed to implement the drawings or just do his own little measuring work, he now wants to take the process of design because people don't know. It's just like, let me give you an instance. Every church, when the church wants to build a structure, they will say all the professionals should come forward. And you see people who are engineers, many engineers will come forward. Some are actually electrical engineers, and they'll be playing the role of a structural engineer. It's also misplaced. So we need to also professionalize most of these artisans and, give them, certificate them. The problem has been that there's a gap. There's a gap in craftsmanship, so let us not deny that fact. And this is as a result of the fact that the technical schools were just completely taken out. Those days where you used to have City and Gate, you had technical schools. People were trained, to acquire practical knowledge, but they are also trained to have a theoretical base, to back up that practical knowledge. So when they are doing anything that they are doing practically, there's a reason for every action that they take. And unfortunately, in building construction, you can't afford to make too many mistakes. Because if you do, it tells on the street. So you have so many collapse.
It costs all the time.
It's been costing
from quack professionals
to unplanned.
Very quickly before we go, I want to quickly ask, housing scheme. Maybe I would pull you a little bit away from the technical side to
that's all right.
More financial. We can put that for pigeons. How do you see the housing scheme now? Back in the day, the late 90s,
yes,
we're mostly talking about government. They say affordable housing for the individuals, affordable housing for citizens and stuff. But these days now, we know say not too many government apartments there around. Now it's more of private. If you stay in Lagos now, you see so many housing schemes springing up down from the island areas, Ajah, Lekki, all the way going down. How do you see housing schemes in Nigeria? Let's use Lagos as case study now. A lot of people have been saying that for a person to get in your own house now, it's very expensive. And the government is saying we're building affordable housing, or we're making housing affordable for citizens and individuals. In your own, I know the term affordable on its own is relative, very relative. So in your own opinion, would you say housing scheme, or the kind of housing schemes that are coming up, are favorable to people? What do you think can be put in place to enable people to get still relative affordable housing? Yeah, it's still relative though.
Yes, the problem of there's affordability gap.
Yes.
Because as the building prices are going up, salaries are actually not being increased like that. Even when you bring in mortgage, which is a very good machinery to drive the housing policy. The problem is that those who are supposed to participate cannot even afford the mortgage, because your repayment to income index is not commensurate with what you have to pay on a monthly basis. You understand? Because so that is the problem. So what solutions can we have so that we can have we can solve this problem? First of all, the government has to take up the responsibility of making it possible to have access to land. The Land Use Act of 1978, vests the all right of ownership to the government. Well, if that be, let it be properly implemented. Let government provide land. When you don't just provide land, but provide infrastructure, then you can deal with the public sector to build houses and monitor the process. Then there has to also be a way to encourage mortgage companies, by way of providing guarantees for them, by way of mortgage insurance, so that people who are lending to build, they have a fallback position. If you leave it to the commercial banks, you are going to tell me, if you don't have a project or if you don't have a transaction that has a very short life cycle, you want to take money from commercial bank at what interest rates. You can't break even because, number one, the cost of production of those buildings are going to they're going to soar so high. And it is your cost of production that determines how much you're going to sell the building.
Thank you so much.
Very interesting discourse now. We don't get on top with catch. You know, when you listen to a seasoned professional, you go just they look, they listen, because all of us want to learn and we don't want to avoid some mistakes where they avoidable. At least you will do your very best. Thank you very much for coming, sir.
Thank you.
All right, now, all the time we will get on top of the show now with this, I go say get better day for work.
Very true. And just quickly, just tell people how to get a professional architect. Is there a website for the association?
Yes, there's a website for
What
the
is it?
association. Now, you know, we don't advertise because it's a professional thing.
So you can
Yeah,
just
like
go
lawyers.
online
Just
and
go
you say
online
it.
and- yes,
And you say it.
And
All right,
search.
which is very nice. Thank you so much.
To enjoy more of these our Ogbonge videos when you just watch, press this button to subscribe on top of our YouTube page. You go love am.